Hey guys, so welcome back. This is kind of like the story time I was talking about. And of course, what book did we choose? Bold Plan. Now, I did, there we go. I did kind of change the setting, change stuff a bit. Kind of, I don't know. I think that this might be better. I don't know. If not, we can also always like change the color. Like there's different things. I don't know. I really don't like some of these. Um, I Sorry, mix these for a minute. I don't know. I like this one, but if you guys don't like it, we'll just go back to the other one. But, so my plan is to kind of take this by chapters and then kind of see. This is a kind of a bigger book. I haven't really read aloud um, an extent since really like high school. So we're just kind of see how these things go. Today, I'm just going to read the prologue and the first chapter. So that'll take us about to page 20. Um, I'm not too sure how long this is going to take because I am sometimes a slower reader, but we'll see how we like it. And of course, I'm drinking Earl Grey, so we'll get to it. Prologue. This story takes place in the far future on Earth after a global war in which a new energy bomb was used, created to destroy electronics across large regions. The unknown long-term effects was that 98% of the next generation of female children were born sterile. It also caused the planet to become charged with a new type of energy. Of the children that were born in the centuries that followed, the small percentage were able to gather this energy around them and reform it with their minds. They were labeled as wizards. Society was cast into their Society was cast into many directions. As some groups continued to use the advanced technology, others resorted to more primitive lifestyles similar to that of Middle Age to the Middle Ages. After many centuries passed, the barbaric tribes, with the help of the wizards, overcame all technological advanced people. Technical devices soon faded into campfire tales and legends of all the changes to the planet after the Great War. The single most devastating effect to humans was they were no longer the top of the food chain. The war woke the dragons. Prologue 2. Blood and sweat dripped off the old wizard, yet Growl hardly noticed the pain as he sneered at the old book with an evil smirk on his face. Growl had been trained for over 50 years to conquer the challenges he just passed to reach this moment. Yet the greatest test still lay before him. Paused and looked around. This dark room with the oldest stone floor, the were walls ever known. Thousand thought a thousand thoughts rushed into his evil head. His parents, brothers, sisters, and loved ones. He traded them all for this one chance to become the greatest wizard of all time. Roll thought back to his childhood when the elders had described the challenges, especially the final challenge, the person who could ask a question to the great book of Omega. That was the book could not answer would gain all the Omega's knowledge. Grohl smiled with a crooked grin. Many years went into the search for this perfect question, and many lives were lost in the search for it. But Grohl didn't care. Long ago, he found out that only the strong survive, and he killed many to prove his point. Once he had the power of the Omega, many more would join the dead until he ruled the world. Slowly, Grohl's cold, bony hand opened the book as 1,000 wizards before him had. The ebony pages turned near the front of the book, and the writing was unreadable except for the words Grohl, Wizard of Northbrook, October 31st, 2493. State your question now. Grohl's heart stopped for a moment. How did the book know? Grohl's iron exterior rusted and collapsed to the floor. Never had he felt so trapped. Then he regrouped his strength and stated his question. When the third quadrant of the fourth nerve ending of the six-year-old brain is exposed to the elixir of dragon's blood and suffer trichromate, what are the 5 steps of the result? Grohl spoke these unrehearsed words in a single breath. The book shimmered and shook, but no answer came forth. Grohl held his breath as the book turned color upon color, faster and faster, until it was still with the empty ebony pages again, but no answer came forth. Grohl howled with excitement as he realized he had won the greatest test of all time. His mind raced with his upcoming conquest of the entire world as he jumped around the room. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to the book, and his evil smile faded from his face. Written in ivory letters were the 5 steps of his question, and all were correct. Grohl's lungs burst with an angry scream that shook the very stones of the room. No, it can't be. It's impossible. Only I could have known the answer. The book started to hum, and Grohl felt his attention being pulled towards the book. He wanted to run, but all he could do was stare. Slowly, the very atoms of his molecules separated from the top of his head and drifted into the book. Even as Grohl realized that was happening, he could not break his stare from the feeding book. Soon all it was left of the Madge was his ripped dark robes, which seemed to fade into the stone floor. Burp, stated the book of Omega. Slowly the book of Omega closed as its laughter echoed throughout the castle. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. It was a cold spring day with a bitter wind that tended to chill one to the bone. But Edgar didn't mind at all. It's not that he wasn't cold, it was just that he had other things on his mind. knee-deep in the cold, murky water. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Edgar's attention was focused on the large bullfrog tadpoles. From a distance, townfolk might think they were looking at a large crane or stork wading in the pond due to Edgar's tall, skinny frame. At at only 17, he was already taller than most adult men in his town, but his thin, weak frame and unique mind made him a target of other kids in the town. If it were for Dash and Crunch, Edgar wouldn't have any friends. Stepping lightly over the hill, Dash came waltzing into view. He was the same age as Edgar, but much different in appearance and attitude. His movements were smooth and quick, much much the same as a cat. His attitude was noble, like he was the he was the touch of with a touch of arrogance. Yet his quick anger brought a dark side to him. A small grin crept over his face as he noticed Edgar peering into the pond. Edgar's actions never surprised Dash, but they always kept him grinning. Dash neared the bank of the pond, but he still couldn't understand what Edgar was doing. Edgar, meanwhile, was in the deep thought as he memorized memorized the swimming patterns of the tadpoles around his feet. All of a sudden, the patterns changed and the tadpoles swam in a very fast, erotic directions. Astounded, Edgar peered closer to the water. His nose was just skimming the surface. That that's when he saw the large catfish swimming straight for his feet. Before he had a chance to react, the catfish, quicking, thinking Edgar's big toe was a tadpole, dove for his feet. Edgar try Edgar, trying to jump straight out of the water, only succeeded in falling face first into the water. What in the Dash murmured to himself. Edgar, what's the matter? Without any further thought, Edgar jumped into the water. Yeah. Without any further thought, Dash jumped into the water to help his friend. He quickly found Edgar 2 feet below the surface. Grabbing Edgar's shirt, he pulled him to the bank. What's the matter, Edgar? Dash shouted at Edgar, thinking something was terribly wrong. Hush was the only sound Edgar made after swallowing several mouthfuls of water. Unable to catch his breath to any or talk properly, Edgar held up his foot and showed Dash the catfish hanging onto the end of his toe. This was, yeah, sorry. This is what made you jump like that, Dash said in a burst of laughter. I thought the water snakes. I thought a water snake or a giant leech grabbed a hold of you. Edgar, thinking none of the situation was funny, caught his breath and shouted, "Don't just sit there. Help me get it off, for Pete's sake." "I don't know, Edgar. It really looks good on you," replies Dash between his fits of laughter. "Just be glad it weren't skinny dipping." With that comment, Dash fell over from laughing so hard. Not getting the joke, Edgar could not fathom only why would somebody would be in the water with no clothes on. Dash, whose cheeks were sore from laughing so hard, knelt down and helped Edgar remove the fish. I think I'm going to change the light. I don't like it. Sorry. I think we're gonna stick with that. I think I like that better. Edgar yelling out in pain as Dash gently tugged at the catfish. As most fishermen know, catfish have rows of bristle like teeth that slant inward to hold their prey better. So once Edgar's foot entered its mouth, there was no way it could easily have gotten out. Stop trying to yank my foot off, Dash, said Edgar as he hopped back and to stop Dash from pulling it anymore. Stop. You're whining. Or, yeah, sorry. Stop your whining. I barely pulled on the catfish. Dash shot back, Edgar glaring at Dash. Okay, I have an idea. Let's find Crunch. He'll know what to do. Dash compromised. Edgar, not knowing what else to do, slowly followed Dash up the hill. Thump, thump, thump. Looking back, Dash saw Edgar walking as if he had one long foot that was broken in the middle. Dash started laughing again. Fortunately for Edgar, Crunch was splitting wood not too far away from the pond. As they approached from his back, they momentarily watched in awe as Crunch's muscular arms bulged and his shirt muscular, sorry, Crunch's muscular arms bulged and sorry, and his muscular arms bulged in his shirt. Broad back rippled, broad back rippled as he brought his large axe down to the log. With each chop and the split wood went flying in every direction. Sneaking up directly behind Kronk, Dash was just about to grab the axe's handle near the blade to scare Crunch. Die, you hell-spawn orc, screamed Crunch from the wild look in his eyes. Taste the fury of Crunch, the mighty, and die like the rest. The axe blade cut through the large log with an ear-shattering crack. The blade did not stop until it firmly embedded 12 inches into the hard ground. Being caught off guard, Dash had instinctively taken 3 steps back. What are you yelling about, Crunch? Edgar spoke as he nervously looked around. Now it was Crunch's turn to jump. Don't even sneak up on me that way again, or I might split you in half like the logs. Anything you say, Crunch, the almighty. Dash grinned while blow, bowing low. Crunch turned red with embarrassment. I like to pretend. It makes the work go by faster and gives more meaning to my boring life. So what? So what? Sorry, take a drink. So what brings you by for the chilly morning, and why are you both wet? At this, Edgar frowned and Dash started laughing again. Edgar lifted his foot with the catfish still firmly attached. Crunch started to laugh with Dash. How on earth did you get a fish to bite your foot? Most people just their use a fishing pole, or at least a net. Never mind how I came to this predicament. Just help me get it off. Edgar shouted while turning red from the whole matter. Your wish is my command, oh foolish one. Before Crunch had even finished his sentence, he snatched the axe out of the ground, continued to the upward arc, and brought the blade down on the catfish. The fish's head was severed from the rest of his body, and Edgar's big toe was almost showing. When Edgar saw the axe coming down at him, he nearly wet his pants. What are you trying to do? Kill me? Yelled Edgar, trying not to sound scared. You know we would never hurt you, buddy, Crunch said as he grabbed Edgar in a tight bear hug. Dash slipped Dash slipped your knife between the corners of the fish's mouth and the toe. Twist the blade so the blade is pointing outward and cut it off. No, wait a minute, Edgar shouted as he realized Crunch's hug was more to hold him down rather than express friendship. There has to be an easier way. What are you talking about, Edgar? Dash said with a grin on his face. Edgar yipped. The fish. Every time you move it, every time you move it, my toe hurts. What fish? Dash replied, trying not to laugh. The one on my. As Crunch loosened his grip, Edgar realized that with blinding speed, Dash had removed the fish's head without Edgar feeling it. Even Crunch was impressed with how fast and precise Dash was carried out his instructions. Edgar smiled and sighed in relief. Edgar's relaxed smile started to wander once again. Edgar's relaxed mind started to wander again, just as he always did. Bending down, Edgar picked up the pieces of wood to inspect the grind and how the axe split them. Why does the wood split in odd angles and not just straight? Asked Edgar. Here we go again. 1,001 questions, Crunch moaned. So, Edgar, are you going to eat your fish or what? No, it's all yours, said Edgar as he moved from one piece of wood to another. How about you, Dash? Do you want to split it with me? Crunch grinned. Not about to eat anything that was once on Edgar's foot, Dash replied, I feel kind of full right now. You can have it all. Crunch grinned, turned to a full smile. He cleaned the fish, built a small fire, and started to roast the fish on a stick. Over the fire, Dash started down around the fire. Dash settled down around the fire, thinking to himself about how odd a team his two friends and himself made. Edgar's attention shifted over to the woods and the fire. Does the flame actually burn from the wood, or does it come from the vapors produced in the heat? Edgar mumbled more to himself than to his friends. Still engrossed with the fire, he added more wood. Both Dash and Crunch ignored Edgar due to the fact that they didn't understand the words, uh, understand a word of what Edgar was talking about. Don't you just want to explore the world, fight evil, talk to warriors and wizards, find magical weapons, and more than anything, get out of this boring town? I mean, we're all 17 going on 18. This might be our last chance to see the world, Crunch said to Dash with a far off look in his eyes. I'll go, Edgar replied before Dash could even open his mouth. Dash shot Edgar a glare with blurted Dash shot Edgar a glare for blurting out. Both Edgar but Edgar didn't even notice as he continued to throw more wood into the fire. No thanks. No thanks. I think there is plenty of women here in Cartown that I haven't dated yet, Dash said as he remembered the curvy redhead that he's been seeing recently. Dash, that's no adventure. That's more like sticking your head into a bear trap. Soon you will have 10 kids, a fat, pushy wife, and a sore back from all the work on the farm. The day I'll put a ring on my finger is the day that you find a very fast woman. They don't call me Dash for nothing, Dash proclaimed with a grin. In actuality, both Dash and Crunch chose their own names to fit their physical attributes. Also, neither cared to be called by their real names, Clarence and Bartholomew. Edgar also saw nothing wrong with his name, it, and everyone always told him he looked like an Edgar. I have to get out of this town, even if I have to return the next year. The way I see it, this will be my only chance. Ma wants me to get married to Big Bertha, the only girl in town that's meaner than a polecat, less than 5 feet tall, and weighs more than I do. Pa wants me to work for him back on the farm with my 5 older brothers. All I know is that I have to get out of this town soon, or I'll never leave at all. Crunch grimmingly replied. I'll go, Edgar repeated. My parents said they would even pay me to go. Edgar, now smiling, continued to feed the fire. By this time, the fire was getting very high. Crunch, not paying attention to his fish, suddenly jumped as he noticed the black thing at the end of his stick. I can somehow believe they would pay you to leave, Crunch said as he frowned at his poor fish. Nevertheless, he still ate it, except for most of the bones. Well, I would love to stay and chat, my friends, but there is a certain redhead that has my name on her, so I must be off, stated Dash, as he gracefully rose to his feet. I don't think it's that that I don't think that filly would be a smart one to mess with, Dash. All she enjoys is getting into trouble, and since her father is the mayor, she always gets away with it. Unfortunately, the boys she gets with don't fare as well. Crunch warned sincerely. You're sorry, getting another drink. You're starting to sound like an old mother hen, Crunch. Believe me, I know how to take care of myself. I'll be fine. With a low bow, with a low blow, yeah, with a low bow and a grin on his face, Dash started off towards the town. With all the trouble we'll see on the road, I don't think we will see half as much as Dash will, Crunch said. You mean you're going to let me go with you on your adventure, Crunch? Edgar said so fast that Crunch almost couldn't understand him. Yes, you can come along. You're my friend and true companion, Crunch spoke. And besides, we'll need money, and I don't have any. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Edgar shouted while jumping up and down. Finally, I'll be able to find the answer to all the questions. Do you know the approximate distance to the first town we'll be going to? What is the average rainfall like in the spring in the geographical area geographic areas? Do we need to contact the nearest town's inn to make reservations to accommodate us? Is the approximate weight of a silver coin in our town the same weight as in another town? Is the value the same? Is the language? As Edgar continued on, questions after question, Crunch slowly tuned him out and started to wonder if this was such a good idea. With the vision of Big Bertha came back to his thoughts, and in an instant he knew that any fate was better. Grinning down at Edgar, Crunch gr- knew that he had to give Edgar something to do, or his mind would explode from working overtime. Edgar, Edgar, Edgar! Crunch shouted as he attempted to get his attention. Edgar's mind was racing at lightning speed. Edgar! Roared Crunch. Edgar jumped 2 steps backward before he noticed Crunch looking down at him. What have I told you about your rambling on, Edgar? Crunch said with a stern look on his face. Crunch had always been more of a fatherly figure to Edgar than Edgar's own father ever was. Sorry, Crunch. I'll try to stop doing that, Edgar replied as he looked up at Crunch with his sad puppy dog eyes. Crunch never could be mad at Edgar when he looked at him with his look. Okay, Edgar, you will be in charge of the traveling arrangements. We'll need maps, food, traveling clothes, at least one mule, some horses, weapons, lots of money, and a list of the different customs of far regions. I'm counting on you to complete this task, and you only have 1 week's time to complete it. Crunch would actually be happy if Edgar would just be able to get some food. The main purpose of the list was to keep Edgar busy for a week. Edgar's head was already reeling with the list of things he had to do, and the old order he was to complete them in. He never heard Crunch say another word or even saw him walk away. So that's the prologue in the first chapter. Now we are over about 30 minutes or so. Sorry about swapping so much and kind of fumbling so much. Um, I personally, I'm interested. I don't know about you guys. For me, I think, and I was given a little advance notice about this. It is kind of hard to read, both from spelling and some grammar things. Also, I am kind of a slower reader, um, so you can kind of see that. I've also never read the book before, so this is really my first encounter with the book. Um, I do look forward to continuing to read and going on this journey with you guys. Um, I don't know if the original author, um, Robert Brent, is. I did get his approval, but I will be posting this as you guys now can see. So it'll be interesting to see what he says, and we'll go from there. I guess we'll go ahead and sign off, guys. So, um, yeah. Um, so this will be coming out now. Um, but I look forward to seeing you guys' comments. And this will be coming out every Wednesday, though this is a little later. The rest of them will be a lot earlier. So, alrighty, guys. I hope you are filled with peace, love, and joy. I can't wait to see you all again.